Hello, fellow Beastians. This is your one and only gaming beast, and I want to welcome you for Death Move Doom to Darabka's RPG Tavern. And today we got a nice section of the OSG here. We got here Michael Barker, we got Charles Cole, and we got Ian from Fantastic Dimensions. And how you doing, guys?
Good.
Doing good. Doing good.
Good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm just a little bit disappointed, but other than that, that's the standard of life at this moment.
It's because I'm here, isn't it?
But otherwise, I'm okay.
Way to kick it off with a happy moment, man.
I know, right?
It's because
I'm
I'm
not
here.
only disappointed, but I am in a perpetual state of disappointment. My
Yeah.
name is Your Game Beast. I'm Darabka.
Let me cut myself and listen to some Depeche Mode.
Lincoln Park.
Oh,
Depeche Mode.
Wait, 90s, right. Probably old enough
mean-
also for Depeche Mode, but probably Linkin Park. Wait. I'm gonna choose my emo. It's probably Papa Roach. There you go.
Oh, god damn it.
Oh, that's
Nobody-
it. That's a good one.
Nobody knows that band anymore. Like Linkin Park, at least had still success beyond the 90s. Papa Roach,
Yeah.
it was
Man,
even
nobody
worse
knew that-
than like.
Nobody knew that band
Like
20 years ago. Either.
they weren't even bad enough to be remembered. They just were like.
Papa Roach is like perfect music for crying next to your locker, wearing those headphones that go behind your head.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
They curl behind your ears?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Oh, the nostalgia.
Well, in college, I would listen to like melodic death metal and shit, and like what is it, speedcore? I don't know if you know that shit. That one is fucking crazy, speedcore. That one just kind of fucks with you. I don't know. But anyway, off to a good start. Ian, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I've come here to refute your argument.
I think maybe we lost Ian to the void.
He may have just stepped off
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We lost him to the void.
the void.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, so you're talking Pesh. He unmuted his mic.
Well,
so
I want to go back to the RPG topic. At least pretend this is an RPG
Yeah, no,
hangout
go ahead for a few minutes. I'll
thing
join in a bit.
for a little while, and then we can
All right.
venture up. Because I had to reschedule my game again, I've been kind of frustrated. People, when I try to get people interested in a game that is like a new game or an old game that hasn't been played. I just want to try out something new. But most people aren't interested because I have this feeling now, like this, especially in the OSG, it's always 5e or Fate or like Numenera or something, like a flavor of the week game or a 5e or Fate. But it's like you sell them to something that is maybe not as well known, and most people are just like, what is this? Can we run this with 5e? I like the setting, but can we run this with 5e? Even though it's probably really hard to shoehorn, but can we do this? And that's what sometimes bugs me. And we have Dr. Pepper.
Hi.
So misunderstood. Hello. So yeah, I've been just saying about how everybody wants to play 5e all the time.
Well, there's
What do you guys think?
There's an easy reason for that, is that it's the most commonly used role-playing game currently, arguably. And Fate, because of word of mouth around the OSG, is very common in the OSG and outside. So I think people just want to run what they have, or they're more inclined to run what they know than run something new.
Yeah.
I've never played Fate myself.
Mm.
I played a couple Fate games, or derivatives of Fate games, not a lot of them. The one there that Nelson ran there with the gods, that was a Fate-based, and with its own supplements. And
Right.
and it was the first time for me playing Fate with him, and I've been kind of wanting to get into it a little bit, but I've been looking at different systems trying to get into them myself. But I don't know if I'd say it a problem, but my situation, I'd say, maybe more so than any, is the fact that I've been doing D&D since, '78, and it's been an easy progression for the most part. And not that I'm adverse. I've done Traveler and a couple others, and I've tried Firefly a little while back and things. I'm not averse to it. It's just that sometimes it's where your comfort zone is. Like
Yeah. Nobody wants to step out of their comfort zone. And the thing is that it showed for me that I've been trying not to run all these weird systems. I've been trying, and I did succeed also with Rifts. I mean, we got like 18, 19 sessions.
That seems weird to me because for me, gaming is the comfort zone, and it just I've had trouble because I try to run homebrew games and say, oh well, I don't want to do something new, and yet every game was new to you at some point. And there's lots and lots of games where I've only played one or two because I never got into it. But I'm willing to play anything the GM presents. Apparently, that's not that common. You say you've been playing since '78. I've been playing since '74, and back then we just played whatever was available, and most of the time it was D&D. But if somebody brought something else, plus also the rules were a lot less standardized because the rules were frankly rather inadequate. So everybody had to add house rules, and people weren't playing campaigns. So the first part of joining a new game was negotiating with the GM as to how much of your character you could actually bring with you.
Okay, right. Okay, I just want to intersect here just quick. I just want to say something with Barker, what you said. I've been now running. This is the difference. I just want to say this now. I wanted to say this now for a while. I've been just like when I was trying to get people for other systems that are maybe not as known. It was usually harder, and I wanted to also get new people. And I always would go back to my regulars. But when I said, okay, I'm going to run 5e, I pretty much instantly had a 6-man group. And out of those, 3 people left after the first session. Doesn't sound like a good sign, but some of the people didn't mix well. But then by the next session, it filled up again to a full 6-people group, and we had always 4 to 6 people. And only
so
last
you're saying
time,
5th edition is an exception to the people won't play something they hadn't played before?
No, I think Barker was right. It's basically the most known system, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm just here to talk about is that because I like 5e. I think it's a really good system, and I cannot argue with that. I enjoy playing it. I have decided to move on from 3.5, and if I want to use something that is not made for 5e, like anything D&D or D20 related, I just convert it to 5e, you know. But I still have, I still want to run and play other systems. I don't want to like focus on one thing, even though I do enjoy Dungeons and Dragons 5e. And I just am just kind of curious why people are so intent and not maybe experimenting. I tried to do ogre games like now 2 times now, and that just failed, and it failed because like it's a free system, a legally free system usually that they show, but most of them are homebrews by smaller or bigger companies. But most people, if they even heard the name, they just are not interested, or they don't even see the post, because then somebody posts, hey, look at this chainmail bikini, how offensive is that? And then let's talk about this, or like, oh, let's talk about the latest drama because that's important. And
Frankly,
then
I haven't seen that much of that on the one-shot game group.
what have you seen?
Chainmail bikini.
Okay, fair enough. The stupid. I just got like triggered hard. I got like it's my nom basically. Like I got PTSD flashbacks from those freaking like meme pictures with the chainmail bikini chick that got shot. Because at least in the RPG brigade. Okay, I'm hearing back somebody's voice. Okay.
You're echoing.
I think
I don't think
Charles's mic, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry if I muted you, Dr. Pepper. Okay, Charles. Okay, so all I want to say is that, what is it? I lost my train of thought here. But what was I saying?
Well, you were
You're
talking about how
frustrated
people experiment.
because other people don't seem to go for what you want to offer. You like D&D of all kinds, but you'd like to do something else, and it's hard to find other people who will.
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying is now I had today my Starship Troopers game. So what I'm talking about here is also what I found, that we had 4 people then, but of course we had people falling out and stuff and everything. And I know already, I'm already so like jaded that I post Starship Troopers, and there might be somebody, oh, I will like it, and this is already pissing me off more than, and the chainmail bikini meme pictures and a little bit of this SJW feel, that's more in the brigade, and actually that's why I like the OSG, because it went away and it was more gaming focused than like what is offensive or not. You know, you can discuss that. Everybody should discuss what they want, but I am more interested in specific game mechanics, and if it's game ethics, then it has to be something that affects the game itself, you know, in my opinion. So,
Okay,
like,
I just don't see the connection. I've never had anybody say, well, I don't want to play a homebrew because of game ethics. Now, I do know that it is true that for some reason, current players are less likely to go for something that doesn't come with a nice, thick published book. And in fact, there was a point some years ago when I was stuck in Tucson, and there was this one game store there. I went there for 4 months before I could get anybody interested in my homebrew game, but after I did, I was able to run a continuous campaign that lasted 4 years. Unfortunately, I did not come out of it with any greater understanding of why and how to hook people for something else. But I suspect that the thing about 5e is that they started out, first, people know there's going to be a book, and second, the preliminary stuff is free. So they're kind of fertilizing their own garden before going full tilt and having people like the brigade start up their campaigns.
right. I will say this though, that as much as I like what 5e did, I think it's sorry, I think it's not that super unique to have to post the rules out there, especially ever since the internet. Like everybody applauds, like I mean, you played longer than I'm alive, so you probably know this better than me. But I remember that, for example, one of the first systems that had a free version of the rules, of the basic rules, was GURPS. And I started
Yes.
out playing GURPS with the GURPS Lite rules, the 3rd edition of the GURPS Lite rules, and I printed it out. It was one of the first RPG PDFs that I ever had. And before I bought the basic book, I played the PDF because I was a poor college student, and then I saved up my pennies and I got the core manual for 3rd edition. And that's where it started. So, but before that, I played for quite a while with GURPS Lite, and it was a complete system. It's just, you know, very basic, you know, like very, there wasn't all the advantages and all the skills, obviously, because they want you to buy the book. Now, yes, with 5e, you could argue it's a complete system, to a degree, yes. And Lamentations of the Framed Princess, like Ian is a big fan and big supporter of that
I've heard
system.
of that. I've never seen it.
Well, Ian runs like that all the time. They have released the full rules, and but it doesn't have any of the art. And you can buy the book, basically. You buy the book for the art and having a physical copy of it.
Okay. Well, also getting back to what I was saying about 5e, I think Pathfinder set the trend for that. No offense to GURPS, but Pathfinder, Pathfinder with its free startup and the understanding that there would be books, and I think that was how they got people started. And then, of course, the reaction against 4th edition, which I completely missed. I never played a 4th edition. When I'm not GMing a homebrew, I'm usually playing somebody else's, and for a long time it was just 3.5, and then later on 3.5 or Pathfinder, including one time when I played a game that with a GM mixed them, with the result that I'm still not sure which rules go with which system. But I believe in first rule of role-playing: pretend you're there, say what you do. Second rule: know the setting. Really, everything else you can rely on the GM. Even if you're at the point of, I want to do this, GM says, okay, roll this. That's a little, that's a little, but it'll get you through.
Okay.
And I'll play anything on that basis.
Right. Okay, I want to stop you there because I want the other ones to chime in too, because you said
Sorry.
the two rules in your opinion is was it know the rules and know the setting?
No, not know the rules. Pretend you're there, say what you do.
Okay, yeah, pretend you're there, say what you do. Okay.
Know the rules would be the first.
I mean, that's not even a rule in my opinion, but okay, that's just but okay, know the setting. I don't quite agree with that because that's one of the biggest problems. But what the hell do I know? You know, maybe what do the others think? And we just have a new person join here, Caius. Oh, Caius, of course. What's up, Caius?
Hi there, Sean.
Okay.
I might mute myself because I'm in the middle of eating.
Okay, yeah. As you wish. So I want to ask the others, what do you guys think? I want to bring this back to the topic at hand, but I will ask this quick. Do you guys think it's a good thing if the people know the setting at all?
Yeah, I think so. If that's important for the setting, I feel like, here's the thing, I feel like there seem to be two modes. Like, here, come play, like, for instance, Chris Wilhelm just opened up a sample game in the Absolute Tabletop group for Legend of the Five Rings. And he said, hey, I know a lot of people want to learn this. Who wants to play, in this one-shot? And I was like, sign me up for a 3-hour one-shot. Sounds great. Legend of the Five Rings seems like a game in which you will need to know a bit of the lore. If I'm saying, like, hey, I would like to run D&D, stereotypical D&D, no problem, I don't expect people to be like, well, you need to know the first cousin of the Lord of Wintergrin, and you need to know that person's a vegetarian. Unless that's somehow important to the story of the game, right? And in that case, if you want to infuse lore into your game, what I would do is, instead of being like, hey guys, I wrote this small 133-page PDF for you guys to read about my world before we run a 3-hour one-shot, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world, pick 3 things. 3 things that are important for your world. Number 1, you should know that the elves of Aurora are known for their wonderfully skilled use of katanas. Number 2, you should know that the name of the Lord of Aurora is the artist formerly known as Prince. You should know number 3, and just like 3 things that you give to the players for them to know so that they know enough to go into your game. Now, I don't know how this relates to... Oh, go ahead.
Well, all right, Barker, you're one of the few people who's actually listened to my videos. Well, they're not videos, they're audios. And you remember I had a little story about a Legend of the Five Rings Light game that I was in which we all playing heads of clans were all summoned to a banquet with the emperor, and one of the players stated that their character sits down at the table and picks up a fork, completely forgetting that this is based on medieval Japan. That's part of know the setting. You don't have to know a lot about medieval Japan, but you gotta know they sit down at tables to eat and they don't use forks.
Yeah,
As
for
a
sure. Just
bare
something
minimum.
small like that. Yep, exactly. Now, one of the things that I think how this applies to, people running 5e or Fate or whatnot is the reason it reminded me of it is because Chris's interest post for the game was, number one, it was dedicated towards people that wanted to learn a new game. It wasn't, hey, everybody, come play this one-shot with me in which I run this game that you've never played. It was, if you want to learn how to play Traveler, let's run a 3-hour one-shot. I will provide the pre-gen characters. I will provide the story. Let's play 3 hours of Traveler. Ian does this with Lamentations, or we've talked about Ian doing it with Lamentations. Here, come play this 3-hour game of Lamentations. I'll provide you the materials. We'll learn how to play. I think approaching it specifically for new people that want to learn a brand new thing and advertising that it won't take very long to do so is a good way to get people playing games other than 5th edition, Fate, or other super popular games.
I want to thank you. That's a really good idea, Barker, because I have always offered, actually, and that's why I have also gotten players. Like, for example, when I ran Censar, it's like I explained to them, I helped them with character creation individually, and we got characters, and I explained to them everything. When I run my homebrew, Action Hero Fighter, I would give like the PDFs out, and since it's a homebrew in development, it's like in an alpha stage, I would actually discuss rules and ask opinions of the players, because this is like very much in an in-process system. So it's good what you're saying, and just knowing 3 things, that's not a bad way of doing it. I'm not so much of a lore master myself, because like I like to have a free form kind of game. My standard D&D setting is called Dare, and it's a very
Hodge.
And
We're going to say hodgepodge?
That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, a hodgepodge setting, and I was kicked out because apparently that is the wrong word. That's a no-no word, apparently, to Google. Hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge?
I don't know.
Wait.
Anyway, so all I want to just quickly say, and then I want to give the word to somebody else.
That's the honest, Sean. You never quickly say anything.
Yeah.
Is that burning flesh? Burning flesh I smell through the microphone, through the speakers?
I love Sean.
Yeah.
Me too.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. And there we go. But it's a good way of doing it, and definitely matching players to the system.
I can't make out what you're saying.
I was
you
just
sound
wondering
like
if I was losing my connection or if it was him.
Okay, I have connection issues.
No,
You're on
it's,
that 1970
How is it now?
East German internet connection.
Yeah.
Better now.
Okay, I turned on my. You see, I'm actually from 1970s East Germany. Actually, 1980s. So I'm visiting my uncle, you see, and I'm time traveling. Just saying. So that is the connection loss.
East Germany was one of the first places to get FidoNet outside the U.S.
I don't even know what that is, but let's stay on topic. Point being,
Okay.
just quick, I think that's a good way of doing it. Definitely easing the players in, because the thing is also with Starship Troopers, for example, if somebody didn't like the movie or doesn't like the setting or anything connected with it, you're not gonna have a snowball's chance in hell. Like, I know I'm never gonna convince Ian to play a superhero game, unless
I've never
maybe.
seen the movie, but I hated the book.
Yeah, I know there's people who either hate one or the other, or love one or the other, or even both sometimes. But what I want to say is, like Ian, I could never convince to play a superhero game unless if we would do it like a realistic vigilante style. So it's just no superpowers, just guys like Punisher, and just go around and it would be like I would even run it with
Sean,
costumes.
you promised you were going to say something real quick a few minutes ago. I'm just wondering what it was.
So the question is, how would you introduce, like, if you can bring up a specific system, how would you introduce people to a specific system and/or setting?
Completely depends on what system it is and the setting involved. So it's circumstantial, but generally, because I've done this with a lot of systems successfully in the OSG, first thing I would do is make sure I have a decent understanding of myself. Now, I don't have to master the system, but I want to make sure that I at least understand the core basics of the system, enough that I can make the other shit up. And if the system has some kind of set lore, like Mythrogue, for example, I want to make sure that I understand enough of that I can communicate it to another player without making them read the 133-page PDF that Barker was talking about.
Yeah. That's a good.
So then what I try to do is I will set up some games, and usually I will say, okay, who all wants to play this game, and I'll see how many people are interested, and then I'll form groups based on that. So for Mythrogue, when I did it, I had to run 6 different groups because I had over 20 people wanted to try it out. When I did it with Lamentations, I think I only had to run 2 or 3 groups. Yeah, I think I ran 2 groups because I had like 9 people that wanted to play. Mass Effect also I had to run 6 games because there was that many people that wanted to play. So I set them up for one-shots, and I planned those one-shots to be kind of quick, fun little trips through that setting and that game. I'll try to tackle any major unique aspects of that game within that one-shot system as best I can, just to kind of give the players a feel of like, this is why Mythrogue isn't the same as D&D, just with 3d6 instead of d20s. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or this is why Lamentations isn't just a basic D&D clone. This is actually what they do differently.
Yeah, what they do differently in Lamentation is you got flintlock pistols, but they don't do shit because you'll die in the end anyway.
Well, that's your opinion.
No, I'm kidding. It's a good game.
I think that it's more important to introduce the story than the rules, because regardless of what the rules are, you want to have a good story. And the thing about Starship Troopers, I wouldn't mind trying to play Starship Troopers, but if I get a vibe that this is the exact same mishmash of fascism and libertarianism that was in the book, then no. And I wouldn't like it even if it was some other game system.
See,
but
I'm going to fundamentally disagree with you there, though, only because the question was, how would you introduce someone to a new system and a new setting?
I would
now, okay, maybe in
too.
a setting, the story would be important, but when it comes to introducing somebody to a new game system, the story is no longer the point of focus.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that if people like the story, they'll put up more effort into learning the system.
It depends on what kind of role player you are. I can see what you mean, and it can be true, but I think what Ian means is that often a good role-playing system with a specific setting, the setting will actually help the system. Like, for example, Mythrogue is based on Norse mythology, and it's based on epic but very deadly combat. Like, you can gain some really bad. It's more. The combat in part is more realistic. There's still magic. At least that's what I felt from the time I played it. Like Starship Troopers, for example. Yes, they based it off very clearly a 3.x system, but it's much more deadlier, and you don't have really almost no magic. The closest thing you have to magic is the psychics, and their psychic abilities is very weak. But it still simulates the setting, which is a mishmash of the actually the movie, the book, and the animated series. So
there was an animated series?
Yes,
Okay, I never heard.
there was a CGI animated series which was actually closer to the book and better in many ways than the movie. Like I like the movie, but in the CGI animated series, they have, for example, the armor, the full battle armor. That is also like that's why the RPG. What I like, they actually say that we try to pick the best parts out of all the different iterations of the source material. And the game mechanics themselves, like you can get grievous injuries, you can get like scars, you can lose an eye with an injury. You can get scared, like your character, the first time you see a new alien, you gotta roll for a will check, or you get shocked. So it's very much, it can get really brutal, and so it's not like D&D, because with D&D, you're much more powerful, and you're much more able to fight, like usually against something that is, especially 5e. If it says this is the challenge rating, and you are a 5-party group, you're pretty much going to be fine. Like this is where with 3.5, you take a monster that is above your challenge rating, or two levels above, and the characters are not super min-maxed Munchkin characters, you're gonna be fucked basically.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I don't believe in challenge ratings myself. I think that it's up to the players to decide if they feel up to such and such challenge, and if it turns out they're not, well, they learned something. Not that I throw a dragon at a first level party, but a first level party might see a dragon.
Yeah, but it doesn't make like this. This is where I do believe in challenge ratings, because I don't want to necessarily throw. Because I had once a monster that I thought, okay, they could take, and it was only 1 or 2 challenge ratings above them, and it was a Mega Raptor, but it did like one full attack, slaughtered one of the players, and injured the other ones badly. And I had 3 of those Mega Raptors because I wasn't as experienced with 3.5. So I think challenge ratings are important, because then you know what kind of encounter you want to create. So,
I don't think you can actually tell too much on the challenge ratings, because dice make such a big difference to any encounter that just challenge ratings are based on sort of averages, and you're going to get things going off averages because everybody likes you, because it's based on dice, D20 system, and a few bad rolls can fuck up any party, and a few good rolls can fuck up any system.
No, I disagree, because it's like, yes,
especially at low level.
Okay, at low level, that's the thing is, though, that especially 5e, I think they've done the challenge ratings really well, because they have the challenge rating 1 stuff, and then they have stuff like a half, an 8, and so on. They're really weak monsters, because those weak monsters, those are the ones you should actually throw at first level, or even if you want to make a 0 level game. And the good thing with the monsters is when you make your own monsters, then you know you can just reskin monsters or modify them, because a lot of it has to do also with hard stats, like, for example, the AC, which is like, how high is the AC? What is the percentage of you hitting that? Sure, you could roll 3 20s in a row, and then you could defeat almost anything. But the thing is, you might hit it, but because there's no active parry system in D&D, you just have your AC, that is always a fixed stat, a fixed number, you know? In other systems, like in the Dark Eye or in GURPS, you have an active parry system, and then you might have armor resistance, where you take away damage when it's hit. But in D&D, it's like the chances of you hitting something that has a much higher AC, and you have no +2 sword or something, is going to be much lower. So, like, if you say that the AC doesn't matter, then okay, then I could send the level 1 characters, and I could send theoretically a level 4 monster, you know? And maybe they defeat it if they're smart enough and everything. But if I played a monster properly, it was like when they were like level 2s, and they fought a Bone Naga, but I played the Bone Naga intelligently. Like, I used illusion. They were like readying their abilities to pounce on, Charles knows that, to pounce on the Bone Naga, and the Bone Naga created illusion, as it came up from the steps, it just created an illusion of itself, a simple one, which then, of course, everybody had a different, like, they could either resist the illusion, so they would roll against it, and some were unaffected, but some jumped at it, you know? So we had Juve jumping down from a statue, and we had our druid who was shapeshifted into a bull running towards it trying to smash it, and they just missed each other. So it's all about how you play the enemy. Now, if you play an enemy dumb, then no enemy is really a challenge.
Well, I've always said that the big advantage the party has is that there's more brains on that side.
Not necessarily. It depends on how the players are, honestly. I had some.
Well, that's up to them. That's up to them. They're exploring my head. Then
I had players that totally like just outwitted me, no questions asked. I had players that literally made in GURPS characters. Hey, what's up, Richard? I'm just gonna finish it. They made characters in GURPS, and they made it with disadvantages. And if you're familiar with GURPS, you can gain advantages, disadvantages, and they use disadvantages to their advantage. Okay.
I've seen that.
Creative ways. You've probably seen this if you played any amount of GURPS. That's why there are certain advantages, disadvantages that the DM should consider not allowing. But anyway, my question is here to the others who haven't said anything yet, or it doesn't care who wants to chime in. We discussed about how to introduce players to a new system. Like, how would you specifically? Would you try to introduce specific players to a setting that they would enjoy, or would you rather try to introduce them to a system that they would enjoy? Like, if somebody likes sci-fi, would you say, okay, you want to play Traveler, even though you might not like the system as much, but you probably would like the setting?
It's like the difference between saying, hey, do you want to play Star Wars? Or, hey, do you want to play West End game Star Wars?
Exactly, yeah. Well, Star Wars is good because there's like a million versions of Star Wars. So. But yeah, like somebody who's a Star Wars fan, like this is a problem that many people face if you want to introduce somebody new to role-playing games, you know? Is D&D always the best fit? Do they even like fantasy, you know? I mean, the system is probably good because it's easy enough to learn. But, oh, we have Mr. Red Dice Diaries here. What's up, man?
How's it going, man?
I'm doing fine. We're just discussing because about my frustration, how everybody wants to just play 5e and Fate, and how to introduce players to new systems. Basically, how to get them interested.
I mean, speaking for myself, I mean, aside from those two systems, the only one I'm really running at the minute is the Fantasy Flight Star Wars system. But a lot of the games for that get posted in the Tides of Change community rather than in the one-shot group.
Yeah.
So obviously, if I post in that, I mean, that's no disparagement to the one-shot group, but obviously it's an entire community of people who want to play Fantasy Flight Star Wars games. So if I post a game in there, I know for a base level, people are going to be interested in that game.
That is very true. Yes, that's a good idea. Like, yeah, maybe you just have to find or make new communities for this kind of stuff. And I tried that, but I think my problem with Overgames was it was just not, I guess, focused enough because it was supposed to be legally free, out there RPGs, like completely free RPGs. And the experiment was a random game, a random GM, and random players. But I guess it was just too random. But
I mean, I think for sorry, go ahead.
That if it was announced when I had the time, that's my big problem right now.
Scheduling is always a bitch, yeah. What were you saying?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that you've hit part of the nail on the head there. I mean, people only have so much time, and people tend to be less willing to risk the time they do have on systems they're very much not familiar with. I mean, whether you know the latest edition of D&D or one of the many, many, many previous editions of it, everyone who knows roleplay knows some version of D&D. So on a certain level, it's familiar to them. And I think part of the reason like Fate gets such an airing out is that if you're going right, I don't want to play D&D because I'm not keen on that, you tend to go for something that's very different to D&D rather than something that's maybe a little bit more similar. So it's sort of like the opposite end of that scale.
But that's also not true because I've introduced players to very different games from D&D. You know, like there's so many like free games out there that I find so interesting and just different. And I personally like to try out new things, at least try them out once. And because you never know what is going to be good, you know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think it is a shame that people do tend to stick to only the sort of few games they know, but I do think a large amount of that is a time issue. Because let's say if you're like not a diehard D&D player, but if you're someone who knows D&D, you know you like it, and you go onto the OSG or something like that, and there's someone running 3 games that you could potentially jump into, and 2 of those are D&D games, and one's some game you've not heard of, and that's the only game you're maybe going to get to play that week or something, you may be more inclined to go towards the game you know you've got a good chance of enjoying.
I agree, but that's the thing is with games like Fate wouldn't have been so big as if not certain people in the communities, and maybe not even GOSG, but even the Brigade that's when it started in other communities. Yeah, I think it can help if somebody who is, for example, like has a good big following of some sort, even just on YouTube, or even just like when Vin Diesel played his fucking D&D game, I'm sure that got people possibly more interested who didn't even know about D&D, or thought it was like, oh, I don't want to play this. It's like if somebody, like, what's the guy with the Will Wheaton actor? I always forget him.
Yeah, Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton, that's his name, Wesley Crusher. When he's like,
Will Wheaton is
who plays that Will Wheaton guy in Big Bang Theory? I don't know.
That's probably like Bob Bobson. That's his real name. So he's playing an actor who had a failed, well, not failed. He had a career at one point, but I just want to call him Shut Up Wesley. So.
Right, Will Wheaton's the Jimmy Carter of fandom. After his main career, he suddenly became popular in spite of how people felt about him before.
Well, I grew up with Star Trek when I was a kid, so Will Wheaton was part of my childhood, really, and I didn't like him. I liked Worf and shit. But anyway, we won't go into this.
I think you are right, though. It does do a game a lot of good to have like people, especially people who are well connected in terms of like the communities, banging the drum loudly for those games. It definitely helps. I mean, any publicity for a game's good publicity.
Well,
yeah.
And also,
I was just going to throw in another crazy idea into the mix that I actually think is true. That it's possible that 5th edition and Fate are both very good games, and that they touch on something that a gamer might look for. I'm looking for a rules light system where I can kind of tell a story with my friends. God, Fate really hits that for me. It really touches the place that I'm looking for when it comes to my gaming. Oh, I really like the way Dungeons and Dragons does skills, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
These games have hit this market, for lack of a better term, in a way that makes it so, if I have a really good time playing Fate, then do I really want to try something else? I mean, why? I mean, experimentation's fun, but if I know I'm going to have a really great 6 hours with my home group if we play Fate, a lot of people, I don't know if I would include myself in this group, but a lot of people would be like, oh, let's just play Fate then.
Yeah.
It's that whole if it's not broken, don't fix it philosophy, which I don't agree with all of the time, but a lot of people do have that sort of mindset.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Barker. That's a very good idea, and you're also partially right. But the thing I think with Fate,
for the record, I don't know if I agree with me. I don't think I do, but I guarantee you there are a lot of people out there who have that philosophy.
Well,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
I don't have any personal experience with Fate. I have experience with 5e and 3.5 online. I've been told Fate's a pretty easy system to run over Hangouts. And I know from experience that 5e is a lot more easy to run online and over Hangouts than perhaps 3.5, where you have super customized monsters and you have the option to make every enemy. And it's pretty fast to do once you master 3.5 character creation. But I think that possibly the reason that it leans so heavily towards 3.5 and Fate is the fact that they're both systems that are conducive to playing in a non-local environment.
Okay, that's a good idea too. Yeah, you're right. I
I
think.
also would
Yeah.
add one more point that a lot of people, the majority of the people that you'll see in the OSG, are not as hardcore hobbyists as some of the people in this very hangout are.
Yeah.
A lot of people just pop in to play a game or two games once in a while with their friends, and that's it. They don't have time to discuss different systems and to try and read books and things of that sort. They just want to find something that their friends are playing. It's easy enough for them, and it's a quick fix. Whereas, I mean, we have over 4,000 members, I think, in the group that have never even commented on a thread, let alone played a game in the
Yeah,
in the
this is
group,
this is my giant box. So
Nice. Well,
That's
here's
possibly the best use of that phrase I've ever
I
heard.
certainly
Here's
understood about being serious
little-
players.
my little can of dice, and
John,
My
John,
tray
you
of dice.
killed it. No one heard it. Oh, John had the best joke. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I have a collection of Dr. Pepper bottle caps to use as tokens.
I used to use beer caps in college. It's good times. Okay, this is the thing about, and I want to say this is all like really good input, because I think one of the things that holds back people with certain systems is that they might be more miniature based. And what I can stand if somebody says, oh, okay, if you don't like miniature based games, that's okay. But there is ways how you can do miniature based with the virtual tabletops. And for me, I've run games using Fantasy Grounds that are more miniature based, like 3.5, and I want to use it again because I actually like battle maps, because there's something about using battle maps. What?
Oh, don't let me interrupt you. But I can't believe it.
You know why? I will tell you why I like battle maps. Because one thing about Theater of the Mind that there's a lot of people that if you want to keep it in your mind, a continuity going, because if you say, okay, this guy attacks you, like how do you decide who gets attacked, for example? Well, then he said, oh, I will just roll randomly. And it's kind of bullshit. Because if I have a battle map, then I can see, okay, this guy is here, this guy is there, and this guy is there, then I can think logically more, and it just works for me better. I just do Theater of the Mind. It works with 5e really easily, and I like 5e to run because it is easier to run than 3.5. But I do have also a side of me where I like to use battle maps. The first RPG-like game that I ever played was Hero Quest, which is literally you have a big board of a dungeon and you move characters, and maybe that's why I have that inside of me, So I think using virtual tabletops, I want to start using them more again. I mean, Fantasy Grounds, that's my virtual tabletop of choice. But I know, I'm not against using, Theater of the Mind games, because there is also something good about them with the quickness of it, and especially of, that's why the game that I've been working on, Action Hero Fighter, is totally Theater of the Mind. The entire point of that game is that you can run it. That is the main goal, that you can run it inebriated. So you don't have to think about it a lot. That's the goal.
Pompous as the term Theater of the Mind sounds to me, because I think of it as how I usually play, it's rarely pure. I mean, you get what I did very early on in D&D, and what I still do sometimes as GM is occasionally we put down tokens to represent a relative location, but we don't put them on a grid, and we don't get out ruler and protractor. It's just for a quick visual reminder.
And I think it boils down. This is what I want to say. It boils down to what kind of player you are. Okay. Are you more of a simulationist? And a lot of people here, they're more the storyteller.
I don't even know what that word means.
Okay.
Nobody does, man. Nobody does.
That's not no. That's not true. Like if you say like most people here, I would say they're more like storyteller types, because the first thing you always say, the main thing is the story for me. And you have the actor type, who for him it's acting a character. So any system that helps acting is something that they will like, you know. And then there's games that purely focus on the story, like Burning Wheel or something. Simulationist just means that you want to have that the system is more crunchier. It's more, everything is based more on simulation.
It's not that the system is more crunchy. It's that the system more reflects realism.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I meant to say. It is more. There's things like.
It's okay, I'm here for you, Sean.
Yeah. With Fate, for example, what bugs me, I played a Fate game like before yesterday, and it was like kind of based on He-Man and stuff. My problem is it's a lot about bullshitting. Like what kind of words, what kind of aspects, what kind of things you can come up with in the game.
Yes.
And then you basically deciding, okay, is this right and is wrong? And then you have still the dice roll with the fudge dice, which comes from fudge, because I knew about fudge before I knew about Fate. But the point is that I feel that in a way I like it, but in a way I feel this is like if they would have taken GURPS and taken advantages, disadvantages, but you come up with them with the character creation. And I think for me as a DM it could be very dangerous, because I know I have some friends that I knew they could come up with some of those aspects and things that would be so bad, and like it just in my opinion it could break the game very easily.
Yeah, I mean I think much as I'm sorry, go ahead, dude.
No, I would rather you go ahead, because you are the Fate guru.
You are the Fate guru for sure.
Well, I was actually going to say, much as I like Fate, I agree that it's not, as it's sometimes represented, it's not a sort of fix-all, one game for everything solution. I don't think any game is. It does certain things really well, but if you're going to use it for other things, you have to like rewrite entire swathes of the system, in which case, why not just pick up a system that does what you want it to without having to rewrite a whole loads of it. It's like if someone says to me, oh, we're going to run like a gritty sort of science fiction game set on some sort of alien world, I'm probably not going to be reaching to the Fate book. However, as you've said, if someone goes, oh, I want to run a game that's quick and easy and it's based on like 80s cartoons or something, I'll be like, yeah, I can do that with Fate. That'll take me about 10 minutes to like prepare for that.
Yeah, for that it worked. It was basically Lloyd, not the RLDM Lloyd, the other Lloyd who does a lot of stuff. He ran the game, and it was based on Masters of the Universe. And I grew up with this shit as a kid, so it was pretty fun, in my opinion. And yeah, like the system that I'm working on, I want it to be fast and smooth, but I also wanted to have some elements of like D&D where you have still abilities, you still have dice rolls, in a sense where it's not just like, okay, I invoke an aspect, because my biggest problem with the aspects is if the DM knows what he's doing and he follows the story very closely, the DM can manipulate the storyline. So you're more like manipulating the storyline. And that's what I'm saying, as you said, Fate is really good if you want to do like a quick, very story-based, storyteller-based type of game. For that, I see it's actually really good. You know, if you don't care about like exact simulation of something, you know, if you don't care about exact powers or anything.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to as well is how much of how tight rather a structure do you actually want on your game. I mean, if you're happy with a fairly loose structure and having to adjudicate a lot of stuff and, like you say, sort of creatively bullshit your way through stuff, then yeah, Fate's absolutely fine for that. If you prefer a tighter structure where more stuff is covered by the rules explicitly, then it's probably not the system that's going to give you that hit effectively.
Yeah. I just have bad experiences with players abusing the rules in a ways, with bullshitting through it. Like
Let
I
me
had
jump in there really quick.
Yeah.
Oh, finish your example, and then I want to jump in.
Well, that's it. No, I had a friend who would do this not just with GURPS, but with every game he played. He was a master at doing that. But he would often do it like I always called him. He was like Gandalf, right? He always played the Gandalf of the game, where he would manipulate it to kind of help the DM almost. It was weird. But anyway, go ahead, Barker.
No, you said something. You said, I've had bad experiences with players breaking the game and bullshitting their way through things. And my brain went to, well, what if you changed your perception to that being the point of the game? Is to, instead of set up one large obstacle that the players have to use their character sheets and witty roleplay to get through, what if the objective is to use your team to build an obstacle together and then to defeat it? And you've kind of discovered a little bit of what Fate promotes, is group storytelling. And so I would say that that's not a bad experience at all, unless you are looking for something else. You're looking to watch the horror movie of your dreams, but you just walked into a romantic comedy. Like, I think that's kind of what took place.
Okay, that's a good idea. And I must say, I played Fate now twice. I played once when Andrew Knapp ran it with based on Hotline Miami, the video game, and I played it once with this Masters of the Universe game. And the Masters of the Universe one, the way how Lloyd ran it was really good because he really understood how these cartoons were, and I brought in things like reasonings too, because it's a game where you gotta follow really the plot closely, because if you want a power game in a way, or let's not call it power game, but if you want to min-max in the game, you gotta follow the storyline, know your abilities, of course, and then basically explain how you want to do certain things. And the game rewards you. Well, a good DM in Fate, I would imagine, would reward you with extra pluses to your die roll and things like that. If you explain, well, the reason why I'm doing this, because let's say for the He-Man example, I'm doing this because every one of these cartoons had a moral at the story at the end. So I'm doing this to show that you gotta help your friends even when it's not good. And then I would role play out the scene in a really cheesy fashion, because that's how these or we would play G.I. Joe, the more you know, G.I. Joe,
That's it. I mean, I think certainly with things like Fate, if you're running something like Masters of the Universe or whatever, G.I. Joe, then it very much depends on the GM and the players having a knowledge of that source material to make the game work. Whereas if you've got a game that has a more, not rigid, but a more sort of a tighter structure, a more expansive rule system, then you don't have to rely as much on the knowledge of the players knowing about the source material. Yeah. You can say, right, well, the rules do a lot of this for you. All you've got to do is concentrate on the setting and the campaign and what your character wants to do. Whereas with Fate, you do have to have more of a knowledge of the actual background and the source material.
Yeah. Actually, that's perfect, as you said, because I just thought, especially again, back to Masters of the Universe, I could run that with 5e or with GURPS or something very easily. Especially 5e, it would be easy. I could just reskin a bunch of stuff. And even in the Dungeon Master manuals, they have already stats for lasers, and you got all the other fantasy shit. So I could literally make everybody very easily. So, and then people who didn't even know He-Man, they could jump into the world and experience it. But with the Fate game, it's actually funny because the way how I influenced it, I brought up some of the storyline, and I literally brought it up from one of the old German He-Man Masters of the Universe audio plays that I listened to that had a storyline about a tree of, they call it the Tree of Dying Time, and I incorporated that with the flying character Stratos. Of course, we call them differently in the game because it's like kind of like that. So, but yeah, as you said, everybody has to know the setting then. Well, if you're playing Fate.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that 5e is almost written in such a way that you can hand someone a character sheet and they can know nothing about the system, but if the character sheet's written out and you have the right die rolls written next to everything, they could sit down and play.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I see it. And I've played games on that basis because I don't always want to buy the books of a new game. And I don't know if I'm going to play it again. I've had quite a few games I've only played one time. Or maybe only in the time that I told about having a group in Tucson for 4 years. Well, we tried to switch off, but very few GMs had much staying ability, and it always came back because I was always willing to run. If somebody else said they wanted to run, I'd say sure, let's do it, and then we'd do it for a while, and suddenly they're gone. I'd have spent a lot of money on books I wasn't going to use that much. But if it says, okay, here's a character sheet, here's how you generate, here's what the stats do, try to get to the mindset and say, well, I assume my character can do this. Sure, roll this. Okay, great.
I mean, that's very... Sorry, go ahead, dude.
No, I just want to say hi, Kyle, and I want to also say that thank you for all being here. We are like 10 people now, which is pretty fucking awesome. So that's all I want to say. It's pretty cool, guys.
Imagine if we were all running a game.
Yeah, Parker, come on.
Welcome, please.
You guys want to play Starship Troopers? Just kidding.
Will there be mixed showers?
No.
I mean, to bring it back to Star Wars that we talked about briefly earlier, and it being handy having someone sort of banging the drum for various games. I know for myself, I only had one of the core books for that, and then it was thanks to people like Andre sort of setting up a community and going, right, there are going to be a lot of players here who want to play that game, that encouraged me to go out and get more of the books and become more invested in the system. Because I entirely agree that it can be quite a large investment of money, and if you know, well, you're only going to play like 1 or 2 games of it, you're going to be less willing to shell out the readies to buy like umpteen source books and core books. Okay,
that is a really good point you say, and the reason why I think it's a good point, because that is the entire reason, also one of the big reasons I did Ogre Games, because all the games that I've collected for Ogre Games to run, they're all legally free games you can download for free. Some of them are demo rules, so they're like a game, like for example, Mutants and Masterminds DC edition. The 3rd edition for Mutants and Masterminds, they had an official DC, they got the official DC license, so they could make basically like, and they have the characters, you know, you can play Superman, Batman, yada yada. And then they had demo rules. But then there was, most of the other games were games made by, you know, they're basically also homebrew games and different games, and most of them I found like on DriveThruRPG and on different sites that were for free. They didn't cost anything. And the reason also why I wanted to try them out, because you never know which one could be possibly good, you know, or at least decent. And they're all for free, because I agree that games, role-playing games, it can be expensive, because some of them, especially older ones, they can be expensive. The new ones can be expensive. They usually run between like 30 and a book can run between 30 and $100 or more. You know, sometimes less too. If it's, I don't know if it's like printed in black and white or something. It depends on where it's printed, where do you have to order it from, yada yada. But especially like D&D, they have always the 3-book system. You have to have at least the 3 books. And it's kind of funny that that's just the thing. That's the most popular game, but the good thing is that they were smart that they released the rules, but people still bought the books because the books are pretty sweet. Like, not all of the art in the books now is great. Some of it is really weird, but overall, it's good to have, and it's for me, it's always more comfortable to read from the books. But I'm gonna be right back, guys. I'm gonna get something to drink, and yeah, let's continue this discussion.
Okay.
I have excuse me, I can't talk. I have this idea. Anything you love, you will buy it. Anything you love, you will buy it. If someone loves D&D so much, actually he will buy the full book or two. I mean, okay, excuse me for my poor English, but I want to put it there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, once someone's actually invested in a game and they're enjoying it and they're playing in regular games, they're more likely to continue investing in it, buy more books, etc., continue playing it. And as people were saying earlier, it's very different if you know, okay, yeah, I've got to shell out a bit to buy these 3 D&D core books or whatever, but there's a vast array of games with different people running that I can actually play in. Whereas it'd be an entirely different story if you're like, oh, I'm buying these 3 core books, but if I'm lucky, I'll get into 1 or 2 games every month.
Great thing about the D&D Core 3 is you can get them usually on Amazon for like 40% off almost all the time. I wish I could find a deal like that on Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars books, I'll tell you.
Amen to that.
That's an awesome system that I have not yet invested in, but I definitely want to get the Core 3 at least.
I will say this also because you mentioned the Star Wars games. The other thing that can make a game simply popular or people actually want to try it is simply because it's based off another franchise that is popular, like fucking Star Wars,
Yeah, very true.
Or the Warhammer games, because a lot of people. I mean, everybody. My mom knows Star Wars,
Okay,
yeah.
But what books are the Warhammer games based on? As far as I know, that was in and of itself. It's not. There's no literary precedent for them.
What? Warhammer 40K? It's got like huge lore. Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer.
No, it's not based on the game came first, then they wrote books about it.
No, the war game came first, maybe, but there was first the war game. Yeah, but they have since written many novels, and there's lots of lore, like just tons and tons of lore.
Right, but
you're
I'm
really
saying
wanting to talk about 40K lore, Sean. Just go find the Horus Heresy books, all like 27.
Yeah, Horus Heresy. I mean, that's a thing.
Okay, but that came after.
Well, okay, yes, but the war game, that was the war game that came, that was the first thing, that was the Warhammer war game from Games Workshop.
I wouldn't read a book based on a game until I actually played the game.
Thing is, the war game did, for good or ill, did popularize those settings, the fantasy and the science fiction settings, with a lot of people. So they're presumably the people who've bought into the books. Maybe some extra people come into the fiction books. I don't know. Then when the role-playing games are released, people who are already invested in those settings are more likely to go, oh, they've put out a role-play game for it. Cool. Oh, I'll give that a try because I know I like the setting.
I just don't think that way.
I think what this boils down to is whether an audience has a game made for them or whether the game exists and then somebody makes something for that audience.
Right.
I mean, take D&D 5th edition, which we've been talking about. I mean, whether you played one of the many previous editions, people are invested in D&D. It's a known brand. People know D&D. Would there have been the same response if there'd never been a previous D&D game and D&D 5th edition was suddenly brought out? Would the response have been the same? I don't think it would have been, personally.
No, absolutely not.
No.
D&D was the market leader for a long time, and then it kind of fell off the wagon, and now it's back with a vengeance, So.
Oh, totally.
It's got over 40 years of history, tons and tons of novelizations, a very briefly lived cartoon series.
There was the video games.
Several really horrible films.
Those don't exist.
Well, I will say this.
So horrible.
Wait, I will say about the films this quick. The first one sucked ass. It's one of I love fantasy films, but that one is a boil on the. It's horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Which movie again?
The second and the third one, there's some good things about them. The problem is they're very low budget.
Okay.
That's the only problem. But
All right, which movies again?
The movies based on Dungeons and Dragons. There's a trilogy of movies, and the first one is the worst. Even though that one had
way better.
Wasn't there a fourth one too? The Book of Vile Darkness.
No, that's the third one. The second one is actually my favorite.
Yeah, because Wrath of the Dragon God or whatever the fuck.
Wrath of the Dragon God was really good because it felt like D&D. They actually, for example, they did magic like in D&D. The characters felt like they actually literally the special edition, like the special features of that film were fucking great because they have interviews of Dave Arneson, Gary Gygax. They were really. I want to
remind you, Sean. You said you'd be real quick.
Yeah. Okay. They were involved in the development. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. Because in the first one, they were shut out completely by I think Warner Brothers or Sony or whoever produced that shitfest. They were pissed because they were completely shut out of the development of the movie. The movie could have been better. It's like, that's all I'm gonna say. And you could see that. The problem is budget. The budget
you just said that's all you're going to say.
Well, no. Has anybody here seen Quest?
Sorry,
I've seen the first season.
Okay. Now that was about as low budget as you can get, but it was great. Likewise, the gamers.
We're getting way off topic.
Yeah, we're getting way off topic. Let's get back to what we were talking about.
Ian was in the middle of making a very good point about why D&D could have released a literal bag of dog poop and still sold some copies. So go ahead, Ian.
I've kind of forgotten the rest, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's got lots of history. It's got a very large fan base. It's very accessible. They put out the free demos. You can get it for not too much money. You will never have a hard time picking up a game of it, like to play, at least online anyway. Maybe if you live in a podunk town. But yeah. Anyway, as it happens to be, though, they actually released a pretty decent product, and that's why they were almost instantly right back on top of the market.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think it comes down to this matter of if you know you can find games for a system, you're more likely to want to play it. And for good or bad, everyone knows that if you've got a copy of D&D, you can go onto one of the many online communities, the OSG included, and say, oh, is anyone running some D&D? And chances are you will find a game.
On the flip side of that, man, there's so many games that people miss over because they're so enamored with the big three right now, which is Fantasy Flight, Star Wars, Fate, and D&D.
They do, but that's
and the serpent bites its tail.
The opportunities are there to play these other games. I played in the last 4 role-playing games I played. None of them were D&D. It was, Fantasy Flight games, Star Wars. I played Lamentations of Flame Princess. I played Dogs in the Vineyard, and I played The One Ring. So,
well, though, Ian,
those were all games that were organized through the OSG.
Well, I mean, Ian, we were talking about it yesterday. We were talking about my next 4 games I have on the schedule are DCC, Vampire, Shadow of the Demon Lord, and Arcanus. So.
Yeah. So there is. I will say this too, especially the OSG. As much as I want to say a lot of it is like 5e is the bread and meat and potatoes of the group. There's a lot of other games, and that's why I will never give up trying to also do other games too. I mean, but I do enjoy 5e.
But there's plenty of other good stuff out there.
I think I'm going to do exactly, but I'm going to do what a lot of other people have done. I'm just going to try to make an interesting setting, and I have one in mind too that I want to do, because that's the thing is once you delve deeper into the Dungeon Master Manual, you can see there's lots of options, and then you can optimize it and change it to your own. So yeah, so
You could do that with any game, actually.
Yes, you can, but people say that. It's like something you say just to throw it out there. But who does that? That's the question. That's my question.
Everybody I played with in the first 10 years of gaming.
Yeah.
I modified games too. Like the first game I played was The Dark Eye, and that's a fantasy game, but I modified that too for an urban setting at one point. And you can do it, yes, but it's
that was the first European role-playing game, possibly the second role-playing game ever.
No, it's not the first European. It was one of the earliest German ones, but the first German one was Midgard. I don't know if The Dark Eye is not the first one for sure, but it's still the most popular to this day. They're working now on the fifth edition. They have the beta rules out now.
If I can just say on behalf of the one-shot group, if you're having trouble getting people to play a particular game, the game might not be the problem. It could be your approach. It could be, hopefully not an issue for anybody in here, but it could be a reputation problem. If you have a bad reputation for not showing up to games or for being an asshole to your players, people aren't going to want to turn up and play. Or, there are definitely games out there that may not have very good reputations, but I successfully ran one of them recently, and I've got over 40 active players playing that game now, even though, 3 months ago, every time it was mentioned, there was hellfire and damnation in the OSG. So it's really, you got to be maybe a little bit tenacious, but at the same time, you got to look at your own approach to how you get your players and how you capture their interest.
It's like getting your foot in the door, isn't it? I mean, once a few people have run games and people are saying, "Oh, this is really great. I really enjoyed it." That sort of power of people talking about it and discussing it, saying, "Actually, I really enjoyed this game." You get other people thinking, "Well, maybe I'll give that a go." Whereas at the start, it's a bit of an unknown quantity, and unfortunately some people won't take the risk of trying a game they're not really sure about, they don't know anything about.
Well, a couple of guys have suggested that if you get a game like that where people aren't sure about it, to run it with like 2 or 3 people, if that's all you can get, and then just post the damn video up so people can watch it being played, and you have a better chance of attracting people to it if they can actually see it in action.
I posted the games that I ran, the weird ones. Like, that's the thing is, my track record has been all over the place. I mean, I had the Rifts game that ran for 18 sessions, but it's also because, you had Juve, who was like Palladium Master #1, and then I had a lot of core players that I knew for a long time. I had the Censar game, which only lasted 4 sessions, but the 4th session was just me and Andrew, but we had a great time. And I still believe it's a good system. It's just kind of misunderstood because of the cheesy, over-the-top, and often not very good book art. And now Starship Troopers, that's simply, as you said, like, it's cursed by God at this point. Apparently God is an arachnid of some sort. I don't know.
He's got to be a bug. That's all there is to that.
Yeah.
It's got to be your brain bug or something. I mean, that's only...
No, that will happen. It's just that one is against scheduling. So I think you can make it happen. If you have a game out there and you want to run it and it's not 5e, you have to be tenacious in one part. And some people who have either a good or bad reputation might have a harder time. If you're like really well known, if you're somebody who has worked really hard to get your name out there with lots of YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff, you'll have a easier chance probably getting people. But if you're somebody who has a bad reputation, yeah, it's gonna be harder then. But I don't know. Like, any final thoughts? Because I think this was a good recording. We can still talk afterwards, but.
I'm not opposed to saying this. I'm very surprised that 4 most random ass games I could throw together in the next 2 weeks are all full.
That's good.
So I'm okay with this.
I mean, I agree with what you were just saying. I mean, I think if you've got someone who has got a good reputation and they're well known in the community, and they say, "Oh well, I'm just going to try and run a game of this system that people don't know about," people are again going to be more likely to give it a risk because they're like, "Well, I don't know the system, but I know the guy or the girl running it. I know they've got a good reputation. They've run some good games in the past. I'm willing to take a chance on it."
Well, certainly Barker and crew. We've seen
that meme with the the guy holding the Dungeons and Dragons books, and it says it's the geekiest game ever made, requires friends. So like, you have to make sure you make friends and get kind of. I'm not saying you need to have a loyal YouTube fan base, but you have to have a group of people that you can count on and say, hey, hey, Kyle, Sean, John, Barker, I want to run this game. It's it's some batshit crazy My Little Pony meets Gothic Europe game. Do you guys want to try it out? They might give it a shot because we're friends. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Well, then as you say, you talked about making videos. Well, Barker and his group, they make videos all the time, and we've seen them play 3, 4, 6 hours at a time, so we know what their gaming is like. I'd say they have a pretty good chance if they came up with a game like that. Someone would say, I wasn't able to get into the Copper Jackals, but darn, I'll try this one.
That could be a double-edged sword too, because, and that's not necessarily a problem with. I'm not saying this is a problem with Barker and Absolute Tabletop or the Provokers and not clicking any of those guys. But
are you about to say the word "but"? You just said the word "but."
Let's use them as an example. What if the Provokers?
You just used a synonym of the word "but."
What if the Provokers actually?
The Provokers.
What if the
Ian is about to
Provokers were
ask a
actually?
very good question.
Maybe. I don't want to anymore.
What if the
No, I want you
Provokers-
to.
Come
No,
on,
I think I agree with you.
What if the Provokers sucked ass? What if it was really socially awkward? The guys were
was wrong.
terrible at the game.
I don't know.
No. What if it did? And what if the guys were all terrible at the game? They butchered the rules. They didn't represent D&D properly. That would actually have a reverse effect. It wouldn't
Then there
make people
would
say, "Oh, I really want to play that game."
1 or 2 sessions. But there've been 10, 12. How many have there been? I haven't been able to keep up.
Well, okay, Dr. Pepper, I will tell you this. The Provokers are great. Barker is great. He's a great DM.
I agree.
You know,
But I don't need
I-
really quick. I don't need you to fluff me. This is a really good conversation.
let me
and
fluff you
Ian
a
is
bit,
right.
okay,
No.
because I
Ian
know.
is totally right, because if, for instance, when I wanted to learn Fate, I looked online and I found a live play game, and I watched it, and it was honestly one of the worst games I've seen. And I didn't want to play Fate anymore until I stumbled across your series, John. The All About. It's just like, I can't remember what it's called because it's been a while since I've watched it. But it's just a series about rules and Fate. And then I watched a live game from you. I was like, all right, I'm sold. I want to play this now. What Ian's right about is that, let's say, even for the people who don't enjoy watching the Provokers, like let's say hypothetically, which I know these people are out there, they watch it and they think that's not how D&D is, which I think you're probably right a little bit, that we are a group of people that kind of know each other's play styles, we play a little different than other people. If they don't like that, they might see that as being a negative thing on D&D. I want to play something else, when in reality, the opposite effect holds true. If someone really enjoys the Provokers, they're going to ask, well, what game are you playing? Oh, 5e. Okay, I got to get my hands on that game. As if the reason we're having fun is 5e, which is not the case at all.
Yeah. Because, okay, this is what I want to say. A good group, a really good group, if you know you in and out, you can take the worst games. And in theory, I even believe, and this is really hardcore, you can take the worst games, like even Fatal, and make it a great game. Like, although that you have to be like, you have to really know and like each other for that shitty game. But you can take a bad game and make it great. Whereas then even the best game will not magically change a group that doesn't function well. Because the thing is, Dr. Pepper, you say about the Provokers, and this is what I'm going to say, they have like 12 games, 13, 14, 15, I think? Yeah. Games out. And the
16,
thing is that,
Sean, 16. How do you not know how many games the Provokers
play? Hey. You're the first one-shot, the 8-part one-shot that you ran. It's on my channel.
That was the first one-shot I ever ran online.
Yeah, the one-shot that is 8 parts. So, an 8-shot.
Playing a bit fast and loose with the term one-shot.
Yeah. But it's not. That's the official name now. Barker's one-shot. The point is that I have ran now like a lot of games. I have games in audio form. I've ran them since the end of 2010. I have 18 Rift sessions alone. I've got multiple D&D campaigns that lasted anywhere like 4 to 7 to 12 sessions. So, but that's the thing is that if like I think the Provokers hit a nerve with a lot of people that really connected with them. Whereas in me and Juve and all the others, we play Rifts. Most people, the first question is, "What the fuck is Rifts?" You know. But that's the thing is that if they again enjoy our group dynamic, what?
I played Rifts once.
Okay, let me guess. It wasn't a good experience.
It's okay. I didn't like the storyline as much as I'm sorry. I'm just into basic fantasy.
Right. If you don't like the thing is either you like or you don't dislike Rifts. But I'm just gonna say this here as a finishing thought,
Sure.
unless you guys still have an idea. That I think what you guys said was true. Is that I think in the end it's all about what Ian said in the very end. Make friends because as he said, nerdiest game. But you got to be social. You got to find friends, and I have found many friends online through gaming.
Okay.
And then
bad stereotype. Nerdy doesn't mean no friend.
Stereotypes are there for a reason. I've met the classic nerd and everything. Obviously, we don't represent that, but you know, I just fight against the stereotype. That's all I'm gonna say.
Did you say, Sean, did you say, obviously we don't represent that, as if to say, obviously we're cool? We're not like those nerds.
We're the very special nerds, Barker.
Yeah, dude.
You know, we're very special snowflakes. So we're like Rifts characters. Because there's some really retarded races in Rifts. But anyway, any final thoughts?
Yeah. When are we getting?
When are we gaming?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, guys, so if you guys want to plug anything, go right ahead.
I want to say, you know, online tabletop RPG gaming is alive and well on the OSG. We've got more events going on than we've ever had. There's also a couple of other really good groups out there that are doing more kind of specialized targeted audience games like Absolute Tabletop and The Tides of Change. So, yeah, man, I think it's been great to see how this has developed over the last year and a half or so. And, yeah, let's keep it rolling.
I would like to plug, this is going to sound wrong now, I would like to plug Ian Christensen's face. Now, let me explain that comment. I haven't seen your face in like a year, Ian. I haven't seen your face in like a year, man, and it's like...
I imagine it's the Saturn. Like, you don't have a head, it's just a Saturn.
You happy?
There you go.
Oh my god! Yes, I am.
I'm topless, so I didn't want to Heath Wanamaker you know. So there you go. That was just for you, Barker.
Competition for Heath.
No, but seriously, yeah.
We still love you anyways.
There's what does OSG stand for? I think that's always an important thing to consider. Is this is a group about playing games, and so, we're all, not all of us, but many of us suffer from a lot of social anxiety. We're freaking nerds. Like, this is just kind of the environment of us we're born into. So a lot of times you got to kind of put that aside and make some new friends, and you'll find your gaming group.
Awesome. I'm going to take an opportunity to plug a guy that I networked with this weekend. His name's Mike Yao. He wrote a game. He's local here. He wrote a game called Savage Kingdoms. It's based heavily on Conan. And it's actually a really good game from what I've seen. I need to pick up the PDF. It's only $3.99 on drive-thru. So it's a fairly detailed system. He's taken a long time to rewrite, play test the crap out of it. So he put it out originally, I think, in 2014 was his first release of it. But it's a pretty fun system. I was kind of glad to get to meet him. He played in my Song Ice and Fire game on Saturday, so I got a chance to really sit down and talk to him.
That's awesome.
I might as well plug my YouTube channel. It doesn't have very many entries right now because school is really taking up so much of my time, but it's the Escapist Club. When I talk about my experiences in gaming and some of my opinions.
Awesome. Any other plugs? That doesn't sound right, by the way. Sorry. Okay. Well then, thank you all for having me here. We had like up to 6 viewers, which is probably a record for the show. We had up to 10 people, 6 viewers. It's pretty cool. You should be proud of yourselves. This was a great episode. And well, thank you for being in this show, and I'm honored to talk with you guys and for anyone who's been watching this and will be watching this. And I just want to say, for Deathmark of Doomfell Beastians, and keep on gaming. So.
Keep on doing